Hey everybody, welcome back to Stylist Meets Vinyl. My name is Chris, and today I'm going to talk about warped records. Have you ever been sold a warped record at a record shop? And if so, how did you handle it? What was the outcome? I'm going to tell you a couple stories about twice when I was sold warped records and how everything went down. First, I want to make it clear that I'm not going to name any names of any record shops. I don't want to slander any businesses here. That's not the intent of this video. I just want to talk to you guys about, cautionary tale about how maybe you can avoid getting into the situation that I got myself into. Now, the first story was a few years ago in Toronto. There was a small shop that my girlfriend and I enjoyed buying records. We'd bought a few times there. And I saw this record here, Deja Vu. This is Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young. This is the first album with Neil Young, but this is CSN second album. I love this album. There's so many good tracks on here, and I saw it in the bins for it was about $9. Now, that's the first red flag that I should have noticed, that this was priced at $9. And if it was decent playing copy, it would have been more expensive than it actually was. So I should have known right then and there that maybe there's something wrong with this copy. However, on the price tag at this shop, they did not specify, they did not disclose that this was a warped record. I know that sometimes, depending on the turntable, depending on the how sensitive the tone arm is on your turntable, you can get away with playing some warped records on some tables and it sounds okay. It's not that noticeable. However, I took this record home and found out that, I didn't know it was warped, but I found out that it was warped, and the stylus jumped right off of the record when I tried to play it. Now, I didn't end up taking this back to the store. I probably should have, just to have a conversation with the shop owner, but I didn't. However, I will say that I kind of lost a little bit of trust in this shop because they didn't disclose that this record was warped. They priced it like it was a bit of a crappy copy, but nothing was disclosed. So I just chalked that up as a learning experience for me. Something to be aware of for next time. Inspect your records a little bit closer if they're priced a little bit like too good to be true. Now, the second story happened a few years later at a different shop where I saw this album, Bob Dylan, Blood on the Tracks. This is a fantastic album. I'd been looking for it for a while. It was on my list. I saw a copy that was in the bins. It was used, but it was for $30. And I took a look at it. It looked pristine, not a scratch on it. And this is a shop that had value bins, and then they had their normal record shelves. The value bins, that's like, this is what you see is what you get. You expect that if you're buying a record here, it might have some ticks, some pops. It might even have a warp in it. It's just sort of, take it at face value. But this record was not in the value bin. It was on the shelves. It was priced at $30. So I knew that because it was in the bin, it was on the shelves, it was VG Plus or better. So I took the record home, and I found out that there was just a slight little warp on the edge of the record. It looked like maybe it had been placed near a hot surface, and just the very, very edge had been flattened a little bit, enough that when the stylus came around to it, it jumped off. And that was on track 1 on side A and track 1 on side B. So I called the record shop up that day. I had just spent a lot of money at this shop. I had just spent over $100 buying 5 records, and I don't usually spend that much. I must have had, a hole burning the money burning a hole in my pocket, as my dad would say. So I called the place up. I explained what happened. The guy apologized on the phone. He said, bring it back in. I'll give you a refund on it, which is good because on the receipt of this place, it says no refunds on any used stuff. because unfortunately, there are some people that buy records, they switch it out with a bad copy of theirs, they take it back and they say, hey, you sold me a bad record here. So I was happy that this guy said he would rectify this, but the shop was out of town. I had gone home at that point and I wasn't able to make it back for another week. So I came back a week later. A different guy was at the counter that day, and I told him what happened. I told him my conversation with the other employee, that he was going to give me a refund. This guy, though, said he couldn't do that. It wasn't their policy to do so. He would get in trouble if he did it, and the guy should not have promised me a refund. Obviously, this got me angry, but I didn't shout at this guy or anything like that, because I've worked retail jobs before. I know that you don't need customers shouting at you and cussing at you when really you have no control. It's an issue with the owners, the managers. So I went home. I wrote the owner an email. I wasn't a jerk. I just kind of pleaded my case. I said, hey, this record was priced at $30. I found it on the shelves, not in the bins, and it has a warp in it. I didn't actually play test it when I was in the store. I probably should have, but I didn't play test it. And I said, if your employee missed this warp and priced it at $30, then it's entirely reasonable that I would miss this warp when I was looking at the record. Now, some shops play test, some shops don't. Bigger shops won't play test all records, so they'll just visually inspect it and price it, and that's what happened in this situation. So I pleaded my case to this guy, and I kind of ended the email that I said, I can't continue to shop here if I don't trust the prices. If I feel like I'm going to get scammed, I can't continue to shop here. The owner wrote me back a couple days later, apologized. He offered me a $45 credit to the store. Now, I bought that album for $30. He's offering me a $45 credit, and he told me I could keep the warped record, which really didn't matter because I'm not going to play it anyways because it's warped. But it was a nice gesture. So anyways, I go back into the store. I use my credit. I was able to buy Neil Young. Everybody knows This Is Nowhere. This is his second album, his second solo album from 1969. This was brand new in the shrink. And then I also purchased ELO, A New World Record. This was basically just to round out my ELO collection because my mom was a big ELO fan, so I had a bunch of her ELO records. So that was only $5. I added it in there. So I got those two records for this credit. Unfortunately, they didn't have the same Bob Dylan record, and I ended up finding it somewhere else and buying it brand new. But everything worked out in that situation. The owner took responsibility for the mistake that had happened and won my trust back. And I will be back to that shop again. The first shop I mentioned, I'm not sure if I'm ever going to go back again because I just can't trust that this guy's not going to sell me a warped record. Now, a learning experience here, first of all, playtest records if you can. If there's a turntable in the shop, playtest records. Don't just check. A lot of times you'll just check for scratches to see if this is scratched, but you really have to check for warps as well. Some record stores have bad lighting. They have crappy pot lights. Take it to the front where the sun is. Roll the record around in the sun so you can see how the sun hits it. That's an easy way to find warps. Check all the edges of the record. Don't take anything at face value. You always have to check out these records. It was a happy ending. I'm very happy with how things went out, but it is a cautionary tale now, and I shop for records in a different way now. So I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about this. Have you ever had a similar situation where you've bought a warped record, or a shop didn't disclose that a record was warped and they sold it to you? How did you handle it? How did it make you feel? And would you go back to that shop after they've sold you a warped record? Please let me know in the comments, guys. Thank you for watching the video. If you like this video, I would love it if you could give it a thumbs up, subscribe, consider subscribing. I've got a couple more videos in the pipeline, and thank you so much for the support so far, guys. Thank you for, if you made it to the end of this video. Take care, peace, and keep listening to records. Thanks, guys. See ya.